time before today was out to share some thoughts with you guys. And hopefully, this makes sense to somebody because I was having these thoughts yesterday actually, and I decided to just sleep and marinate a little bit more on it and really figure out how I wanted to share my thoughts with you. Um, I was thinking about resources, and I was thinking about people, and I was thinking about professions. So, what came to my mind is how so many people, even though they've probably done different things or will do different things in their life, they sort of see themselves as this person that is attached to their career or their profession, if you will, right? So what I mean by that, if somebody's a pastor, they're a pastor, but they're also a father, you know. So if I'm a pastor and I'm a father, that's two different things. But sometimes people get so attached to, the profession, what they do for work, what they earn a living from, right? And they forget that that is a temporary situation, right? Like if you're a father pretty much for life. Whether you're a brother or sister, you're going to be that. But, your job can certainly change, right? So if I'm a doctor today, I could, you know, change my mind and decide to be a carpenter tomorrow or vice versa. So that's what I mean by some people have like a level of attachment to that career, that profession. And when I started thinking about how many times I personally have changed jobs and changed positions, things that I've done to earn a living, you know, I said, I can't call myself a this or a that, but I am a person and I am learning, I am growing just like you, if you choose to, right? Everybody has a choice, and some people don't necessarily take advantage of those choices, those opportunities. What's going on, sir? Dusker Arts. Is it Dusker? Dusker? Dusker. Anyway, I'm glad that you're here. I am glad that you're here. See, that's another example right there. I'm assuming, hey, Natalie, what's going on? I'm assuming Dusker might be an artist, right? And if he's an artist or she's an artist, I'm not sure he or she, but if they are an artist, right, there's other things that they're probably really good at or could be good at. Somebody says, so if somebody says, hey, what is your profession or what do you do? So if somebody says, hey, what do you do? A lot of people respond, oh, I am a whatever it is. Feel free to throw whatever you do in the comments too. What I really wanted to share with you guys today is to keep in mind we're more than the profession. For a good stream. Well, hang out, Natalie. You might learn a thing or two that might be beneficial. Who knows? Resources is exactly what I'm talking about. There's, from what I can see, 13 people on this stream right now. Think about 15 people. Imagine if everybody was in the room together. And like I was just talking about professions and what people might do for a living. If everybody is in the room and we're sharing what we do for a living, there's somebody in here that needs a carpenter. And there is a carpenter in the room, and then we can connect those people. That's a resource. That could be the connection that somebody's looking for, that somebody is needing. But if that share what it is they do and how that they could be a resource to other people, it's just like, your neighborhood. you think about your neighbors to the left, to the right, across the street, they all do different things. And back in the day, at some point, we all know that we operated on a on a barter system, right? So if somebody was a farmer, if somebody, was a hunter, the person who grew crops, the person who went and got the animals, they could exchange so that way they could have a balanced meal, right? And today, it's just so interesting. There's so many tools, so many resources. There's an abundance for everybody. But it seems like most people are walking around like this, right? Because whatever it is that they have, whatever it is that they're holding on to, they feel like it's either worth so much that they can't let anyone even see it. They have to shield and guard it with everything that they have. And I always say, I walk around like this, two hands, right? One to give and one to receive. One to give, one to receive. And if you're walking around like this, clenching your fist, holding on to whatever you have so tight, then you can't receive anything. Have you ever tried to take something or receive something with your hands or your palms closed so tight? It doesn't happen, right? You have to be willing. You have to be open to be able to have communication and conversation. And I think that's what's missing a lot of the times. It's so much of I'm right. Everyone is trying to prove that they're right, in a conversation. And I always say it's not even about who's right. What can we learn, right? How can we grow through having this conversation, through communication? There's tools, like I was saying earlier, right now that weren't available in the past. And some people are taking advantage of them. Some people have knowledge. Some people have skill sets that they've built and developed. And maybe they're sharing them with some people. Maybe they're not sharing them, right? I always think, just like I said, giving and receiving. That's the nature of life. We have to receive as kids before we know any better. And then we turn around and we have kids and we give them information, we give them protection, we give them love, we give them all these things, right? Because we were given those same things, and that's the cycle of life. And some people, I think, forget that, or it's not that important to do those things. So I just wanted to talk about all of the professions that we see today, all of the different changes that we see. If you're not, paying attention, then you don't. If you're not paying attention, then you're probably missing out on a lot of opportunities. Let me just put it that way. I was thinking earlier, how crazy it is that now we're living in a time where people are walking around doing what I'm doing on a cell phone, recording, communicating, talking to people all across the world. And before cell phones were a thing, there were cords, and you could only go so far. You couldn't take pictures. You couldn't send text messages. You definitely couldn't make a video. And times have changed. And some people resisted all of this change. And the change, did nothing but come anyway. And right now, there's a lot of people that aren't looking to change. They're just looking to stay the same. But change is happening with or without you. I just want to encourage you to just be open, right? Be open to the possibilities that be there for you if you just took action, took initiative. And like I always say, seek, right? Cell phones, computers. I was thinking the other day, calculators, sometimes add up some numbers or do some multiplication, and it's a weird number, and you pull out a calculator. But before that calculator was introduced to you, what would you do, right? If you didn't know how to do the math longhand, then how would you figure out how to get the answer? See, that calculator, that tool, was a resource to help somebody do math when it came to big numbers or numbers with decimals or fractions or whatever it is, right? Calculator, as simple as it is a resource, is a tool. And when you think of today, and you have things like YouTube, you have things like AI that's available. These are all tools. Some people, they know how to use them. Some people have no clue. Some people are open to learning. Some people, they're resistant to change. What resource are you utilizing, and how is it benefiting you? How is it serving you? And when you are being served, can you turn around and serve others with that same thing? I believe that when you look at most people today, they might say that they're out for, doing whatever it is that they need to do to help other people. But a lot of people, in reality, they're out for self. How do I know? At one point, I thought I was trying to help other people, but I didn't really understand. I wasn't aware. And some of the things that I was doing were really me trying to help myself, but I thought I was trying to help other people. So I was doing those things. And the more aware you become, in my opinion, more people that you run into, that you see really truly helping, really adding value, and it makes more sense to you, what value look you have a better idea of what value looks like, right? And I think if you have enough experience, hanging around sometimes with the right people will give you that experience. It'll give you that knowledge. It'll give you that different perspective that I think sometimes people are looking for, that they're not quite sure what the next move is. But you might sit down, have a conversation with somebody, and all of a sudden things become so much clearer. Now you know what the next move is. But if you didn't have that conversation, it'll be hard to say, would you have figured that thing out? So that's why I always talk about making connections, communicating, learning, growing, seeing things from a different angle. You know, resources that I'm talking about could be people. They could be things like tools like a calculator, right? It could be a lot of different things, but what matters is how you take advantage and utilize these tools. Earlier today, I was with my kids at my sister's house, and my niece spilled some rice on the floor. And it was so funny. My mom said, "Hey, stop stepping on it. Grab a broom and sweep it up and dump it out." And she was so lazy, she didn't want to grab a broom. She started picking up all these grains of rice one by one. And I'm like, dude, really? So I grabbed the broom and I just sweep everything up, and she's still picking. I'm like, watch out. Sweep everything up. There was a tool right there, resource right there, free of charge. You didn't have to pay for it. You could have done the job a lot quicker, less stress, and moved on to the next thing. But sometimes we're so lazy, we don't want to go into the cabinet and grab the broom and just sweep it up. So rather than do that, we'll pick up rice, grain at a time. Right? So these are just things that we do sometimes because we have a habit of not going a long way, of not going out of our way to do the thing that might seem a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit inconvenient, right? So I just encourage everybody that's here, that will watch this. There's a lot of things that are available to you now. So don't feel like your situation currently, if it's bad, don't feel like that's the end. Don't feel like there's no more options, because there's so many options. There's probably more options than ever now than there has been. And there's more options coming tomorrow and the day after and the day after. But again, are you looking? Are you open? And are you willing to take action when that option and opportunity comes your way? I just encourage you to keep on networking. Talk to people. Conversation skills can pay huge dividends. And when I say pay, I'm not talking about financial. It's talking again about the resources, the community. Imagine having a connection to be able to get anything that you wanted at any time because you just had the resource, right? The resource specialist. Imagine that's your profession, right? Act like resources are what you specialize in. If there's anybody that's looking for a good handyman, a good carpenter, a good doctor, a good dentist, a good chiropractor, I might know that guy because I have several resources and I can put you in touch with the best of the best for anything that you need, right? Imagine that was you and you were a resource specialist. How much value could you provide to anybody out there that has a problem, that has a need, that has a want, and you have the resource to be able to fulfill that? That's all business and life is, ladies and gentlemen. Solving problems for other people. And you become valuable because you've done that. You become top of their mind when they think of that problem, or somebody else that they know runs into that problem. You're the solution. So how many solutions do you have, or are you limiting yourself to just your profession, and that's the only solution that you can provide? Because I know you have more, but sometimes some people hang on so tight to that profession because the world and everybody else looks at them in a certain way, and they love that feeling of people looking at it and say, oh, he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's an engineer, whatever it is, right? That feeling of you being recognized is what people like. Sometimes I could care less. What value, how can I change somebody's life, right? It doesn't matter what the profession is. If I can't do anything to truly change somebody's life and leave them better than before our interaction, then it doesn't really matter. It's almost like a waste of time. And that's why I always say, if I can add value with any one of these videos, that's my goal. If I can give somebody something that they weren't thinking about, change their perspective on something that they're working on, give them a different idea to get to the destination faster with less stress and saving, resources, that's awesome, And sometimes some of you guys watching have the resources that I'm looking for, but nobody's communicating. Nobody's leaving comments. Nobody's sharing. Well, let me not say nobody. Some people are, but a majority, I think I was looking the other day, it was like 90 something percent are new viewers. The other, 8 or 6%, whatever it was, were returning. So that lets me know, hey, maybe I need to do a better job with whatever I'm putting out here as far as value and content so that I can get more people coming back. But maybe if there was communication and I knew what people wanted to see and I had those resources and I could put those resources to use, it'd be better for everybody. I always say I'm not a mind reader, but I'm trying to get better at communicating and reading the room. Reading and recognizing this is a good skill to have as well. But communication plus learning equals growing, right? Growing our connections. And it's not what you know, but who you know. We've all heard that before, but sometimes I don't think we're actively, intentionally going after growing our network. And if you are, I'd love to know how are you doing that? How are you growing your network so that you could be a more resourceful person and provide more value to people across the board? I'd really love to, connect with more people. Again, that's why I'm doing this. If there's a way that I can share anything of value that you can take, use, share with somebody else, that's what it's all about. I believe we live in a people helping people world, and some people really go after it and live their life like that. And some people, like I said, two fists, trying to receive, not trying to give, but two fists. This, give and receive might be a little bit easy. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, like I always say, I hope I was able to, share something valuable with at least one person. And if that's you, just leave me a thumbs up, leave me a subscribe, jump on the next video, get some more nuggets, and please feel free to share. The video's already here. Share it with somebody that could use the information, that could use the motivation, they could use the perspective change, right? Then I'll see you guys on the next video. If anything pops up that I could be of assistance with, I don't read minds, but I'd love to know. So please, let's communicate. We'll talk soon.